How you doing? Hey, listen, my name's J. Gale Kilgore. I'm from Big Spring, Texas. That's where we are here in Big Spring. Well, we're not really in Big Spring. We're in Sand Springs. You can imagine back in the olden times when they all got here riding them camels. They said, "How's the water?" I said, "Well, the springs run in sand." So they named it Sand Springs. Pretty tough. They had to bring them camels in here. They fill them full of water, and they didn't have no barrels there. So when they got them in here, they ain't but one way to get that water out of them camels, and that's, you know, you got to be real thirsty to drink at Camel Whiz. But that's what it amounted to. I remember they said they was having trouble getting them camels all the way over here with water, and Abdul said, "Listen, I know how to do that. Let me show you." And that camel was over there drinking water, and getting him a drink of water there, and had his head down there, and he went up behind him with 2 bricks, and he hit the family jewels of that camel with them 2 bricks, and that camel, I'm telling you, that camel was full of water. That's how you do that, he said. And that guy asked him, said, "Abdul, don't that hurt?" And he said, "Well, you got to keep your thumbs out from between them, you know, I guess so." Anyway, them rednecks, they have, every culture's got something like a rednecks. We have rednecks that go to family reunions to meet women, you know, and then we have sand necks. They got, you know, they got the same problem everybody's got. You got sand necks, they go to family reunions to meet camels. And then the doke necks from Australia down there, they go to family reunions to meet kangaroos. And this Australian, talking about Australian, the first time that this guy was telling about the first time that he had sex, they took his daddy took him into the brothel, and it's his first time, so they went ahead and took him up there, you know, and he said that she went in there to get ready, and then when she came back out, all of the furniture was over in one corner of the room, just completely empty, open spot. And she said, "What's the deal?" And he said, "Well, if it's anything like a kangaroo, we're going to need all the room we can get." So that's how that can go. But rednecks and things like that, they'd say something like, you know, they'd be driving their pickup and say, "Hey, Bubba, hold my beer now. Now what's this?" And then Abdul, he'd be riding on a camel, and he reach back and say, "Here, Harman, hold my goat's milk. Now what's this?" So there's all kind of cultures that got the same thing. A lot of people go to school and get learning and stuff. I never did like school. They'd always ask you something that seemed like you never did know the answer to. So they'd say, she'd say, "Now, what is a woman got 2 of that a man wants to get his hands on?" A teacher'd ask, you know, well, everybody's raising a hand, I'm raising my hand, everybody. And this little girl, they finally picked her, of course. She said, "Hands." And the teacher said, "Oh, that's right. It's hands." And then she said, "Well, what's a man got one of that a woman likes to get her hands on?" Gosh dang. You know how you raise your hand because you know the answer, you know. Well, anyway, this kid stood up and said, "Billfold." And she said, "That's right." And then she looked at me and said, "Jay, I want to ask you a real easy one." Well, I told her, I said, "Well, I hope so, because I done missed them first 2 bad." And there's things like that in school there's always asking you. I remember one time she sent me home. We were studying about the Declaration of Independence. And, well, we'd been studying about it, but I didn't catch on good. She asked me who wrote it. Well, I didn't know. Well, so she sent me home. Well, when I got home, my dad asked about it, said, "Why are you doing home?" And he said, "Well, the teacher sent me home because I wouldn't tell her who wrote the Declaration of Independence." Well, he grabbed me up and took me back up to school, and he told the teacher, said, "Listen, now, Jay, we ain't never had much, but we've always been honest. So if you wrote that, you get in there and tell that teacher. That's how school goes too. And have you ever been out here on a parking lot at one of these discount stores? A lot of them, they call them CPOS, Chinese Product Outlet Stores. And if it's a superstore, then it's CPOS. It's got two S's on it, the super part. And then like they come out here and park, there must be a fine line between being a lazy, fat bottom person and being handicapped. Because there's lots of people need to park way down yonder and walk up here to the stores. You know what I'm saying? And then you get, what really ticks you off is you come around and there's 3 handicapped parking spots, and the good spot that the straight people that ain't handicapped does, they've parked in there and they got handicapped license plates on their truck. Something else. And then there was things in school that they taught. I never did understand this. Maybe y'all are educated and stuff more than I am, but they learned us about something called the Iliad and the Odyssey. Iliad, something like that. And there was some real fancy writings by a guy named Homer. Of course, the only guy I knew, everybody I knew that was named Homer played the banjo pretty good, first place. But they never did read books, Homers that I do did, and none of the Homers I knew wrote books. That's for sure. And I remember when I was down going to school and having to work my way through college and stuff, I was in there and this guy come in and he said, I was working at a hardware store. And he said, do you sell me a half a stovepipe? And I said, man, we don't sell just a half a stovepipe. It comes, there's just one length of stovepipe. And so what I did, you got to learn how to think on your feet when you're working out in public. It might keep you out of trouble. But anyway, I went to the back and I said, Leonard, there's some idiot out here wanting to buy a half a stovepipe. Well, I turned around. I didn't know the guy had walked right up behind me there. So I turned around and said, and this gentleman wants to buy the other half. So you got to remember stuff like that. Then when you go to the YMCA, I went up to the YMCA, you know, the YMCA. I don't remember how it went. But anyway, there's other people goes up there besides the village people, you know, the YMCA. It's a pretty good outfit there. Anyway, I went up there and we was coming out of the shower and I was drying off. This great big guy come out of that shower. Man, he was fat, I guess, what you'd call it. Anyway, he said, he was drying off and I said, hey man, I said, when is the last time that you seen your penis? Well, you know, that's kind of personal, but anyway, he said, it's been a long time. And I said, well, why don't you dye it? And he said, I don't know. Said, what color is it now? You know, there's things like that happen in life. And then there was a deal about, I got to cut this short so I can get on back to the house. And I wanted to talk to you like this and learn you some stuff. But before I go, I want to tell you about God. I really felt sorry for God that day. His daddy came home and said, you took my only begotten grandson and did what? You know, he died and all that stuff. And he said, your mama's gonna whoop you bad over this. He said, I'll tell you what, I want you to get Jesus alive back up here. And I'll give you 3 days. So that's how that went. And then I remember one time I was depressed. I felt bad. And didn't have no friend, nobody to hang with me, you know. So I went to the doctor and he told me, said, now, just take your pants and pull down. Pull your pants down. I said, well, all right. And he said, now get down on your knees. And he said, get down on your knees and just crawl over there to that wall over there. So I did. And then he said, well, turn around and looked at me and come back over this way. And he said, I know what's wrong with you. I said, you know what? Why it's making me so depressed and no friends? He said, I know what it is. It's the worst case exactly I ever seen. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, your butt looks exactly like your face. Hey, listen, I enjoyed visiting with you, and I hope you enjoyed some of the comments, and I hope to help learn you something. This is J. Gale Kilgore. Thank you very much.